Hello, hello, hello. Hello, Sharon.
Hello, Jamie.
How are you doing on this Sunday afternoon, evening kind of a deal here?
I'm doing great. It's kind of weird being here on Sunday.
It is. It's kind of weird. It's kind of awesome. Let me check and see. Can the folks out there see us? Can you hear us? Are we coming in loud and clear? Just let us know real quick in the chat, and then we will get things started. Hello, everyone out there. Thank you for joining us on a Sunday. We decided Monday is going to be an insane day. It's going to be crazy for Sharon. Just getting back from the cruise and catching up on everything. And thank you guys for the all good notes there. And I'm of course back to work tomorrow. And on a side note, we have a big game tomorrow night, Monday night football. So that's going to be going on too. So we decided Sunday would be the better way to go. Daniel Fields, I'm sorry you're on a cruise ship and the internet is choppy, but we'll be okay. Very nice to see everybody there. So what we want to do today, Sharon, please go tell the folks what we got planned for today.
So we decided to go live today, right after the cruise, where everything was kind of fresh in our minds still, and do like a kind of a full ship review. We're going to go through different areas, different things about the ship, and tell you what our experience was. I know I've seen multiple different reviews from people online. Some people like the ship, some people don't like the ship. So we have a little of both, and we're going to tell you how it was for us as a family. I will say that this ship is going to be probably a totally different experience for families versus maybe a couple or something. It's just different all around. So we're going to kind of give you the breakdown, go through different areas like the cabins, the venues, the food, and several different areas today, and just kind of let you know what we thought.
Yes, I think that so we're doing it as a live stream, right? So we're here live, but I think the goal is to talk a little bit about the ship, and then maybe in a little while break in and take some questions and stuff like that. And that way, if someone tunes in to watch this who isn't necessarily looking for the live stream, but just the review of the ship, they can get something out of it as well, instead of the usual wild and wacky live stream interaction and all that. So forgive us for not saying hi to everyone, but we know you're out there.
Hello,
Thank you for being there. And I know there may be less folks here because they're like, what are you doing on a Sunday? Yeah. It doesn't make sense. And football's on, so you're probably watching some games and stuff, but we want to jump in anyway and just chime in. So thanks for joining us. And Sharon, you want to take it away? We got a little bit of agenda, so we wrote some notes down of some things we want to share. And then, of course, later on, any questions you guys have about the ship or our experience, we'll let you know. I will say this. We had a great group of people with us. We were traveling with about 15, 16 folks.
It was a little bit of a group.
As part of a group, so. and that was spectacular. And if you've done the group cruise already, any experience you have on a cruise ship will be enhanced and made better by traveling with awesome friends and other people that love cruising the same as you do. So that kind of goes without saying. So thank you to all of those folks for making this week extra special.
So much fun with everyone.
It was fantastic. It was fantastic. I see a few of the names out there already. So hello to all of you. And Sharon, what do you want to start with? You want to talk a little bit about the cabin on the Norwegian Prima. What was our experience traveling with our family here?
So we're going to start with the cabin. And like we said, we will, answer any questions you have about the ship or anything after we kind of go through our review.
Yeah.
So first off, our cabin, we were in a family balcony. It was a category B4. It does accommodate up to 4 people. It was cabin 16180 on the port side, kind of midship, a little bit towards the aft elevators. Now, keep in mind I guess more like the whole back of the ship is Haven. Decks 9 all the way up through 16. It's all Haven cabins and Haven areas. So the elevators, we were kind of close to the elevators, but there are another set of elevator bank towards the way in the back of the ship that is just for Haven guests only.
Yes.
So, but we were at by the elevators for everyone.
Is it okay to put it in perspective that about 25% of the back of the ship was Haven?
It's all Haven.
And then 75% was everything else. Yeah. Is that a pretty good description there?
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
There's a lot of Haven lot more Haven on this ship than any others. So the decor of our cabin was beautiful. It's all like blue themed kind of decor. I don't know what to say. It was just beautiful. So this cabin would be great for 2 people. and probably 3 as well. For 4 people, maybe not so much, because this one thing they did is they have the queen or king bed that can be split into twins. And then they also have a sofa bed, which when it folds out, it's full size, like a double full size bed. Now, if you have maybe younger kids that don't mind sleeping together, or if it's maybe the same sex, or if you're sharing with your in-laws, parents, or something that will sleep together, it may not be bad. But if you have kids that are maybe a little older, opposite sex, things like that, they're not going to want to sleep together in a pull-out couch bed. Mm-hmm. So in our situation, we had our granddaughter Callie too. There were 4 of us. So we chose to sleep on the sofa bed, and we had the other 2 beds split into twin beds, and they slept on the twin beds.
Here, hold on. Let me give you a little look at that and see if I can kind of make sense of it there. So that was an example of the room, right? So you had the 2 beds away from the sofa bed that were separated into 2 twins, and then of course you had the sofa bed. And we mentioned a few times in the vlog that it's very close quarters. It looks even farther now than in real life, but having to turn sideways and squeeze between that counter and that bed was a little bit tricky. And to give you a little more, can I show this?
It was probably between 6, maybe 8 inches space there that you had to kind of squeeze between to go to the bathroom when the beds were down.
For sure. And it was tight enough space that when we did a little breakfast in bed, there's Sharon in her jammies. We did a little breakfast in bed, and there wasn't much room for anything besides to put everything right on the bed there.
Right.
So that was a little bit of a unique deal.
So that's one thing. Also, the counter space in the room. Usually some ships, they have a little bit longer counter space. So this one was very short. It was small. There was not enough room to put our things on there. We usually set up the camera on there and a few other things. Sometimes we have a little bag with our like medicine, or little bag with things in it, our sunglasses, just all that kind of, all the little clutter type stuff that you set out. And there just really wasn't enough room for all of those things on the counter. Let's see. Also, one thing now, the room steward did put down our bed or at night. He would come in and do a second, like a turn down service. In the morning he would put it up when he cleaned the room, and at night he would come back and bring the bed down. So that was nice, because then we had a little more room during the day once the bed was up. But then there is a downside to that, is like, say you came in the room in the afternoon and you want to just maybe take a quick little nap or whatever, then you really don't have a bed.
Yes.
So not that we had time for that on this cruise, but that's something that could happen.
And you notice there that the 2 of us were, of course, on the pull-out couch, because that's how nice we are, letting the kids have their own bed. But it was a brand new pull-out couch. Yeah. The mattress was as firm as a pull-out couch mattress has ever been, ever in the history of pull-out couch mattresses. And you knew it once you got on that thing. Mm-hmm. And it wasn't the most comfortable. We managed and we did okay, but it certainly left a little to be desired for us. But hey, it was what we had to do, and that's how we rolled.
Yeah. So and it wasn't bad. I mean, we didn't wake up sore or anything, so we were good.
We did all right.
And like I said, we had a great cabin steward, Rudy. He did a great job, very efficient, friendly. So great service in our cabin. So storage in the cabin. We do have a cabin tour coming, maybe in the next day or 2, I guess, something like that.
The cabin tour might be in the next 24 hours. You may see it pop out. So keep an eye out for that. And you did a great job. It's kind of a unique deal.
Yeah, we did a different type of a cabin tour. Most cabin tours, and the ones we've done in the past, are where, you go in first thing when the cabin's all pretty and clean, and you show everything before it's put away. And so you get a feel for the cabin, but you don't really get a feel of what it's going to be like to live in the cabin. So we did a sort of a livable cabin tour. We did it on the last day, once we've really got to know the cabin and really kind of showed you the space of where we put things and things like that. So there was 3 closets. 2 of them had closet doors, 1 did not. One thing I'll say is, if women, if you like long dresses, you bring long dresses. Out of all 3 closets, there was not one where you could really hang your long dresses, where they would hang all the way down, like on some other ships. They only could go about halfway, because they had a shelf on one, and they had the safe under that. The other one had a fold down shelf that could come down. but you could leave that shelf up and it would give you a little extra space, but still not floor length. So we chose to leave it up, which gave us one less shelf so that my dresses could hang down. But they still, probably about this much, had to kind of like just kind of wad up at the bottom. There was no space for long dresses, but there was enough clothing, enough space for our hanging clothes for all of us in there.
And we were able to split it like a boy's closet and a girl's closet is really how it broke down. So that worked pretty well for us.
Also, for as far as drawer space for anything else, we had 2 drawers in one closet, 2 in the other closet, and they were like the basket type drawers that fold out. They were really only about like this big, so you could fit like maybe one packing cube, medium sized packing cube in it, and that was kind of about it. So we each just put a packing cube with all of our things in a drawer each. There were also 2 drawers on one of the nightstands, and then on the third closet it had hanging space and it was just open. There was no door, and it did have a shelf and a little thing at the bottom where we put all our shoes, and then there was an overhead shelf. So for 4 people, really not enough storage space for that. And then the safe was, like I said, under in one of the closets, and the fridge was under that little counter area in the room. So
but good news, the fridge stayed cold.
It did.
The fridge was very cold the whole time, so that's a plus. If you're keeping medicine or anything in there, and that's a necessity, or if you're bringing back any drinks or things like that you're trying to keep cold, that worked out well. So Sharon, what do you think? What were the 2 best things that you liked about the cabin?
So as far as the room itself, it was very nice, but not really practical for 4 people. So, but the 2 best things of the room, I would say, is one thing, the balcony. The balcony was bigger than any of the balconies we've had on any ship, really, pretty much, that we've been on for the most part, unless we booked, like something premium, a large balcony. But for the regular balconies, I felt like they were slightly longer than when we went on the breakaway class ships, and they were definitely wider, a lot wider, and the chairs out
more
there,
depth to it.
were very comfortable. They were padded chairs, kind of like wicker chairs, and they did adjust back so you could lay back.
And that was the first. Having chairs on the balcony that were padded was a total game changer. Sitting out there and being comfortable and really just leaning back in the chair. And here's what was great too. It was it's the ship's brand new. So the glass, right? The glass that's part of the balcony.
Everything's clear.
You can see through it. It's clear glass. I mean, like 6 months from now, it'll have a lot of like water stains on there and stuff. But this time, it was fantastic. So the sooner you get on the Prima, the more you'll be able to see through that glass. So that was awesome.
But so that was great. And then also the bathrooms. These were the biggest bathrooms I have ever seen on a cruise ship. The shower was a little larger. It had the glass door. The sink was much larger, and even the toilet area was larger, and the area in the middle of it all where you stand to get dressed or do your thing, get down the shower, it was just a lot larger. So it was a great bathroom.
I would definitely say if you are what we consider in the cruising community as a fluffy cruiser, right? You've heard the term before. If you're a little on the bigger side and sometimes maneuvering that bathroom can be challenging, I don't think there's really any worries for you here. I think you're going to be very comfortable. You got all the room to do everything you need to in there, and I think you'll be good to go. But what were the 2 worst things about our particular cabin, at least?
About our particular cabin, now this is not for all the balconies, but one was the location of our cabin. So I booked this cabin way back before they even had the deck plans out where they showed what was going to be in different areas. So I had booked, and I had to book a family balcony. So we like higher decks, so I just went all the way up to deck 16. Well, as it turns out, our room was right under the buffet area. And not just any part of the buffet area where it was carpeted. Ours and probably 3 or 4 cabins next to us just happened to be under this area that was like tile, and they had some high top tables there. So every time from early morning to later in the evening, you just heard this like constant, where the chairs were going up and back and forth, scraping on the floor. And at first we're like, what is that? What is that? And then finally, once we went up to the buffet and we were sitting next to those tables and we heard that noise, we're like, oh my God, we are right.
Well, our first instinct was, are we underneath the pool deck? But then we're like, no, because that would mean people are getting up and moving in their chairs. every 3 or 4 or 5 minutes. So and like you said, it was just our luck to be in probably a 30 or 40 foot space where it wasn't carpeted. It was just a hard floor, and that was it.
So that is not an area you want to book your cabin in. So I think this, so I think this ship is really geared towards, couples or maybe even some adults. I don't know. It's just, I don't think it's geared to families so much. Now, so that's one thing that kind of leads you in. Matthew actually is going to do his own review video on the teen club and kids on the ship, and that'll be coming out in a few days. So we're going to kind of skip a little bit over that part, but I will say it's just not, in most cases, if you have a little bit older kids, it's not really the most kid-friendly ship.
Yes. I think that's a consensus, is that it missed the boat a little bit for kids, for teens, with all the things to do that you might find on other cruise lines. And to be honest, what we found on other NCL ships, as far as the kids space and things like that, and what they had available to them for meeting, hanging out with kids, what to do that wouldn't cost a lot of money and stuff like that.
Yeah, so I feel like all the fun activities that were outdoors, most of them, did have an upcharge. Now, and there's no arcade on the ship as well, which kids miss. Now, they did have the Galaxy Pavilion.
Well, adults miss the arcade too, Sharon. We'll have a little time in the arcade on occasion.
I thought the casino was your arcade.
Well, that's sort of, okay, you're right about that. That is a little bit of an arcade, but you know what I mean.
But, so they also did have Galaxy Pavilion, which is the virtual reality area, and that's not free either. So teens probably love this area, but it can get very pricey if they spend a lot of time in there. Each game is $8 each, or I guess you call them games, or each VR, whatever. $8 each. You can purchase an hour pass for $29 a person, or a 24-hour pass for $49 a person. Now, I will say, if you purchase those, if it's not busy and at the time, you can probably get your money's worth by going that route. Like for us, it wasn't that busy at the time, so I feel like we maybe got to play one more thing than what if it would have added up to $8 each.
Yeah.
But if it's busy in there at the time and you have to constantly wait, then it may not be worth it to do it that way.
There you go.
Also, the golf simulators and the escape room is not included in those passes. The 24-hour.
And we'll talk a little bit more about that stuff here.
And those are $15 a person.
Yeah. Really quick, I did see a comment in there, Sharon. Well, first off, Diane Spitzig, thank you so much for the super chat. That's very nice. I do appreciate that. Castle Gazer, if I'm saying the name right, was also on the cruise. They said there was an interior cabin directly across from their balcony on deck 13.
Okay.
Maybe there were a few somewhere.
I think there are a couple, but most of them had those hallways.
Yeah, any hallway that we walked down where we were going forward to aft, and we didn't want to go through all the the busy decks. I don't recall seeing anything else. So maybe there's a few mixed in there. Most of all, our experience was that there weren't many. So maybe something to look a little deeper into if you're booking
and they do
a
have,
room, and maybe you can get that going.
There are some of the solo cruisers, the single cabins that they have on decks. I want to say 12 and 13, I believe, and those interiors some of those were
awesome. And those are awesome for the solo cruisers. They have a solo lounge. I mean, they really take good care of the solo folks there on a lot of these NCL ships. So that's always very cool.
So, and that's it. And like, for instance, the escape room, it only accommodates up to 6 people at a time. And also the darts that they had on there. We'll talk about that more later, but they only held up to 6 people at a time as well.
There you go. Really quick, let me just say hi to Leanne Francisconi and Nautical Nurse Nancy in the chat holding down the fort. As usual, thank you, ladies, for taking time out of your Sunday afternoon and not Monday to hang out with us and keep an eye on things and keep people on their best behavior. I'm sure a Sunday afternoon crowd would never get too feisty in the chat, but you never know. All right. So what do we got next? So you want to talk a little? We've talked a lot about the cabin, but that was a big part of our experience, and had a lot of ups and downs. I guess what's the consensus? Gorgeous cabin, 2 adults, it's going to be fantastic. A third person, but when you get into 4 people, maybe a little tricky to maneuver. All right, so let's talk a little bit about food.
Yeah, food.
All right, first off, now a few things. Number one, if you've been watching the channel, you know that recently I've been watching a little bit more of what I want to eat. And I will say this, the easiest place to go to do that is actually the buffet, where you have full control over everything that gets on your plate. And anytime I ate in the buffet area, I did find that I was eating healthy options and a lot of that. Any place else you go on the ship, you really have to try to maneuver things in one way or the other. So can you eat healthy on the cruise ship? You sure can. And I know that you can do it. Now, talking about the buffet a little bit. Well, one thing, there was not a food item that I had that I didn't love. I mean, really, everything I ate, and every person in the group said the same thing, that everywhere that they ate, it was fantastic and it was great food. It was prepared well. It was delicious. I had hot food when I needed hot food. I had cold food when it was supposed to be cold. Everything there was fantastic.
Yeah, all of the food tasted and looked delicious.
That's right. Now, another thing to note is that if you followed along with the Prima, you know that this ship, it was designed to be a little bit smaller than the traditional ship. Every other cruise line is putting out brand new ships that are big, huge. This holds the most people ever. It's the biggest tonnage ship ever. Well, NCL tried to do something a little bit different, and we thought that might be kind of cool, although maybe it may come back to bite them a little bit.
They tried to put, I think, a lot of the things on those bigger ships on a smaller ship, which made pretty much everywhere on the ship, the venues, the main dining rooms, the specialty dining, pretty much everything on the ship smaller as well. So they did not hold as many people. Yes,
for sure. The buffet itself, the food on the buffet I found was good. Everything I ate was good. It was fresh. It tastes good. It looked pretty good. It was a good selection, but the buffet was very small and very challenging to maneuver.
Probably about, I want to say it was probably about a third of the size of most buffets on
For sure. And there was something unique about it. You had the main buffet area, and then right at the end there was a door that opened, and they had what they called the Seaside Cafe was the main buffet, and then they snuck in something called the Seaside Grill. So right at the end, you may or may not have noticed that a door opened, and then it turned into a place where you had burgers, dogs, and some different grilled foods and some things like that. Some of it was duplicated on the main buffet, but a lot of it wasn't, and many people didn't even know that.
I think that was maybe intended for people coming in from outside, maybe by the pool, or the Vibe Beach Club was right there, and they could come in and grab something without having to come into the main buffet.
Yes.
But it was very small.
It was tiny, and there were times where, I mean, sometimes it takes a minute to find a table, but there were times where I had a plate of food, and it was literally like about 10 minutes. We ate there a few times because it was the simplest way to grab some lunch or something real quick for breakfast or whatever the case is. But it was very, very busy, and I'll talk later about it, but the buffet was also a main pathway to get from the aft elevator to the main pool area. You had to literally walk through the buffet to get there. So there were plenty of people going back and forth from their aft, cabins to the main pool area, in their bathing suits. You had to watch your step a little bit, a little wet floor action. I mean, all that stuff.
It was very cluttered, like pretty much the whole time it was open. And I know one thing really quick, when we came back from our port day in Bermuda, I mean, you know how most people, they head to the buffet after they get back on the port, or head somewhere like that and grab just a quick bite before they go to their cabin sometimes. And the buffet seemed to be the place that everyone went to. And I don't know if Norwegian thought about that when they made it so small, but it was so packed. There were
crazy.
Multiple people just standing around, holding their plates in their hands, almost eating, just standing up in areas waiting for a table, because there were no tables.
It was like a game of Duck, Duck, Goose. You had to watch for someone to get up out of a chair, to slide in there, and then hopefully they weren't too messy and you got the table cleaned up.
I think part of that was, I think they thought maybe a lot of people would be using the Indulge Food Hall, which is a new area on the ship, which is pretty cool. But I will say, I don't think as many people, I don't know, people seem to enjoy it, but I don't think people went there as much as they thought they would. I think people tried it once or twice, and then they were like, okay, we've tried this, let's do something else. They didn't want to just keep going back like they did the buffet.
Yes, the Indulge. Go ahead.
Oh, nothing. I was okay. And we tried ourselves. The first day we went, we sat down on embarkation day. We went there. We're like, oh, we're going to try this new place. We went there for lunch, and we sat down, and we were looking through the menu. We're like, oh, this looks good. Let's, what we would kind of deciding what we were going to get. And then the kids both flipped through the menu, and both of them said, I don't want anything here. Nothing looks good. So if you are a picky eater, or you have kids that maybe are a little pickier, or even maybe if you have allergies and things, they do ask you if you have allergies, but it's very specific there, the food that they offer. So it's not really, I don't think, for everyone.
Yes. Well, it's a very unique type of menu, right? I feel like it's a little Mediterranean, it's a little Indian. There's some certain flavors and tastes that you have to have. And if you're looking for something simple, basic, it can be hard to find something that you're going to want or that you're going to like if you are a little particular about your food. Now,
and we ate there finally. We ate there for dinner one night, the two of us.
We did.
Without the kids. And we ordered several different items on the menu just because we wanted to
try some different stuff.
Try different things.
Take a little look here. Go ahead, Sharon. Keep talking.
And the food was great. It was very good. We had a great meal there. But to be honest, if I was on, we were on a 5-night cruise. If I was on like a 7-night cruise, a week cruise, I would probably be happy. I would like to go there maybe twice, but I don't know that I would really feel the need to go there anymore.
Well, all right. So, like in this picture here on the bottom left, you see there was a duck item that was I loved it, but the kids are like, "Ooh, I'm not sure about that." There's a crab tostada. There's some pork spare ribs. The deviled eggs were unbelievable. Sharon had some brisket.
The brisket was really
tomato
good.
soup, and there was a spinach Caesar salad, and that's what made it a little bit, if that makes sense, a little bit of some unique things as far as what what you're going to find in there. That was one of the things that made it a little bit challenging, I think, as far as the indulge. So we loved it. We had a great meal there. We made a video specifically about the experience and showing how to use a tablet. So we're going to have that coming out here in the next few days. But maybe not for everyone, and maybe it's also one of those things where that place filled up pretty quickly.
I don't know that's
and it was hard to get in there at some
and
times.
when people get back on their port day, back on the ship after being off the ship, I don't know that that's the place they're going to want to go into.
Well, you're usually looking for something quick. You want a quick meal. You want to sit down. You want to get it going. And although our experience was very quick on the service, but we also ate there later in the evening. There weren't many people there.
Right.
I'd imagine if that place is packed, it'll be a little challenging. Everything in there is included in the price. You don't pay extra. You can order cocktails. You can order drinks. And Coco's has some desserts that are included.
Desserts, that they do have a few that are included, but most of them are an extra charge. And all the ice cream options they have there are not included as well. Those are an extra charge. And there's a Starbucks in there that is an extra charge.
Yes, that as well. All right, so let's keep going. Let's talk about the main dining room. So the MDR situation on the ship, there is Hudson's, which is a new, it's their MDR, right? But it's a whole new style of main dining room. It's a circular setup where the entire middle of it is the galley. The view is fantastic, but again, it's very small venue. They did serve breakfast and lunch as well as dinner. Yeah. This was made popular. We put a video out about that. The dinner menu is the same every night. And some people are digging that, some people are not. We talked to some different people with some different ideas on that, but it is what it is.
Yeah, and I think it depends on the cruise you're on. If you're on a cruise where you're going to eat at a lot of different specialty restaurants throughout that week, and you're maybe only going to hit the MDR maybe like 3 nights or so, it may be okay. But if you're going to end up eating the MDR just about every night for the week, then it could get a little old. And
I will tell you this, is that it fills up quickly. So one thing you're going to want to do is make sure you have the NCL app and make sure you use their feature, which are the virtual queues. It's not like you're getting a reservation, but you're getting put in line, so that at one point we were going to go down there. Did we go down for dinner, or was it for
well, we ate
for the breakfast?
We ate dinner there once.
Okay. And
then we ate breakfast there twice.
Yeah.
So we dinner we ate with our group, but that wasn't really the reason, because there were they were just slow. The food was awesome. It was very good.
The service was great.
Service was very slow. We ate there for breakfast one day. Same thing. Food was great. The service was extremely slow. Like I feel like we waited at least 45 minutes for
that was a little rough
for my waffle. And they came to us twice saying, sorry, we're backed up on waffles or something.
It's not fair. We do have to point out that it was the first revenue sailing from the U.S. They had done one little specialty VIP deal before that. So it is still a whole brand new ship. If you've ever been on a brand new or an inaugural sailing, there are a lot of challenges. So we're kind of cool with waiting a little bit, because when the food got there, it hot, was good. Fresh, delicious, everything was cool. So
and then the last day we ate there for breakfast on debarkation day when we got off the ship, and it it was great, and it came like that.
Yes.
I think they were wanted to see it.
And that's when we figured out how to use the virtual queue, so we're able to go down there and although there was a long line of people, we were able to get in there fairly quickly and eat without having to wait too long. So that was cool.
And in the past, we really haven't made reservations on NCL for the main dining room. We would just go and show up, and we really never had to wait much except for a short line. This is one ship where that is something you may want to do because, like Jamie said, the dining room Hudson's, when I saw pictures of it before we actually saw it in person, you just see the pictures online, it looks gorgeous, and it just looks really
huge.
big.
It looks big.
When you get there, I feel like it's still gorgeous, but it's
a little smaller.
It's not quite as fancy looking, or as it's not what I thought it was going to be. Let me just put it that way. It's not bad. It's beautiful, but it's just
and
not
also,
quite what I thought.
like on a lot of NCL ships, there's also alternate main dining areas. This ship has one called the Commodore Room. Same menu, same everything. It's almost like an overflow. This one's down on deck 6, whereas the Hudson's is on deck 7. And the Commodore Room, we ate there a couple times
twice for
and
had
great experience. And it actually was faster and quicker than what we got in Hudson's.
Better service. The wait staff was much friendlier, better. The food came out quick. We really didn't have to wait long for our food in that dining room. So I really enjoyed the Commodore Room much more than Hudson's.
Now, one reason I think they did some downsizing of some of these other venues and stuff was because they have a lot of specialty dining options. And when you're cruising with NCL, you do get some of those free at sea perks, maybe 1, maybe 2 dining or whatever. You can purchase more. And on a side note, for the new NCL cruiser, make sure that you are booking what you want to do in specialty dining before you get on the ship, or immediately upon getting on the ship if you haven't done it already, because these things will sell out quickly, especially on the Prima.
Yeah.
But specialty dining was it could be challenging. We only really scheduled one.
Well, we had one
dining
included in our week with our booking, so that we only scheduled one. And we chose Palomar because we had eaten at several of the other ones, on other ships. So we wanted to try Palomar because that was a new venue. With the Prima. So that's the first Palomar, so to speak. So you might compare it to maybe like the Ocean Blue on other ships. It's more of a seafood restaurant, I guess, seafood. And it was very good. So we chose Palomar. We got there. We didn't wait. In fact, they got us in a couple minutes early. We showed up early, and we wanted to get to the show on time. So they were able to get us in a couple minutes early. Our service was on point there. The food was great. They had filet mignon and a couple other non-seafood items as well. The filet mignon was very good. Very good. But that was it. Everything, once we got on board the next day, we thought about picking another specialty restaurant and trying it out, but everything was booked. Every other thing was booked except for Food Republic on the last day
which is weird.
9:00.
I would love to eat at Food Republic. It's like a lot of Asian fusion type of deal, and they had openings every half hour through the entire last day. Of course, no one else in my group is a big Asian food, fusion type of neat stuff, sushi-ish type of stuff. So I could have definitely gone there on my own. I left you guys at the buffet, but I did not. I stayed with the family, and we did well. Hey, I see a couple of questions in the chat.
Okay.
We'll try to get back to some of those. So just hang in there. We want to talk a little bit more about a few more things. Then we're going to jump into the chat, open up for questions and some stuff like that.
But one thing people were doing,
we're not ignoring you. We just want to get through a few more of this.
People were booking multiple nights at specialty dining, even if they didn't intend to I guess eat there. I think because they wanted to make sure they did have somewhere to eat.
A little bit of
so the thing was, everything. That's one reason everything was full, and then they didn't cancel them, so they just were no shows. So I was told by the staff that if you want to eat, maybe show up at 5 or 6 in the evening, see if there's been any cancellations or if there were no shows, because that seemed to be happening because people were afraid that they weren't going to get in. So one thing I'll say, if you're someone that does that, there's nothing wrong with that, but please, once you decide you're not going to go, maybe cancel it earlier in the day or something, so that way it opens it up for other people to get in. because that's one thing, a big problem, and I see that being a continued problem probably on the ship.
Yeah, many of the specialty dining venues have a bar in it or adjacent to it, so you could certainly go there, get on a wait list, wait and hope that someone doesn't show, and see if they can't squeeze you in. We actually went to our Palomar dinner early because there was something else that wanted to happen, and that worked out great for us. So that's a little bit of a deal there. But I don't know, maybe NCL can figure out some way to settle down on all these reservations where people say, I want to go here or here or here. The tough thing is that you're booking these reservations for dining ahead of time, but then you get on the ship and then you find out what all the shows are and what the entertainment is.
And with ours, we had a little bit of an itinerary change once we got on board too, and I think that played a little bit of a part in it, and people weren't sure when certain shows were going to be, and then they wanted to go make sure they hit the shows. So, you know, once probably there's more of the same sailings and people are more familiar with when these things are going to happen, then maybe that'll help too.
For sure. Okay,
but Jamie, let's talk about your specialty.
Let's talk about something that's near and dear to my heart, and that is the bar on the ship. First off, I never went thirsty. So let that just be said. And many of the bartenders we encountered were great. I mean, we saw the Chocolate Cowboy on this ship. We had a lot of great other bartenders. But let's talk about a few things. You tried some new. What was that red drink you loved?
Red Bubbles. That drink.
God. Red Bubbles.
You've got to try that on the ship.
She's hooked. She's addicted. I'm going to have to make that at home for Sharon, I think. So lots of bars throughout the ship, of course. They're all over the place. But a few issues we came across, and I'll just cover a couple of those. And just know that all the bar experiences were great. And in a few places, especially if you're watching this, Kent, who we ran into in a number of places on the ship, I'll tell you what, guys, I've said it before and I'll say it again. You take care of somebody, if you know what I'm talking about, and they will take care of you. We saw this same dude multiple times, different people in our group saw him, and he remembered us every time, and the service was outstanding.
He even brought some of our group burgers one day after some of the venues were closing down the food areas.
Well, he went all the way to the local, which is one of the bar restaurant venues on the ship, which was pretty darn good, by the way.
Yeah, and we'll backtrack a little in a minute on that. Well, here, let's talk really quick about the local before you go on about the bars.
We did
miss that. The local, it was a totally different setup than on the other ships where there's Oceans and
the local, like the Encore, the Breakaway Plus and stuff.
It was totally different. They had a bar side. They also had more of a restaurant side. It was there was a long wait there. Now that's, once again, that could just be because it was.
What do you mean? What do you think? For the food?
Yeah.
I think some of it has to do with when you go in.
Yeah.
Because, and like Sharon said, instead of it being one big open place, now on the Breakaway Plus class, there is a side which are just like tables and chairs and dining with a little bit of a bar in there. But the local is known for the bar and the hangout and the late night food and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And that was still there and going strong.
Yeah, it was just.
But the bar side didn't have a lot. It had a lot of unique sitting, like little comfy chairs and swing chairs and stuff like that. But I don't need all that, because you give me a bench so I can fit 8 of us there to hang out, have a few beers, and have some conversation, and I'm good to go with it.
Yeah, it was just a totally different vibe. The local on this ship than that area on any other ship.
Not necessarily bad, but a little bit of a different vibe. All right, so a few issues that we had. The first 2 bars that we encountered were the Soleil and the Luna Bar. Okay, and these were on deck 8 in the after the ship. They have that it's called, I think it's like the Indulge lounge area on deck 8. This place in a warm climate is unbelievable. The whole back outer area of the ship outside the Indulge food hall is just comfortable, big, cushy chairs. Groups of people can sit and chat. They had a perfect bar right at the after the ship, and it could not be any better until we ordered Sharon a frozen strawberry margarita. And they said, we do not have blenders out here. And we said, excuse me?
Yeah.
They said, no, we don't have any blenders out here.
I went inside on the inside.
How about the Luna Bar?
On the inside. So it's kind of the same. One's outside and one's inside. So I went in there and they're like, we don't have blenders here either.
Yeah, they're like, it's the same on the inside and the outside bar. And we're like, wait a minute, that's a little bit off. So neither had a blender.
So they said, you'll have to go to the local. That's the closest bar with a blender.
Of course, a devastating 6-minute trek. I mean, of course, we pulled it off when we did it. Not to whine too much, but we're like, what's the deal?
So
Now,
just to know, there are some bars without
also at those bars, they literally had no light beer on tap. And the only light beers they had in the can were Miller Lite and Coors Light. As a matter of fact, the weirdest thing maybe about the entire cruise, there was not one Michelob Ultra to be had anywhere on this ship. I asked for it every place that I had a drink. The first thing I asked for was a Michelob Ultra, thinking maybe it's at certain bars, maybe it's a little limited. Nothing. They don't have it. They didn't have it for the sailing. Maybe they'll have it in the future. Maybe they didn't. Maybe they had it in the past. But there was not one Michelob Ultra to be had. And of course, that's my new go-to beer. Low carb, low calorie, boom, boom. So anyway, so we made do. We found some alternative beers, and that was quite fine. Now, another thing that we really liked about the Breakaway class ship was the whiskey bar. You know, you go to a whiskey bar, right? It's a little bit of a dark ambiance, right? You're sitting there sipping a little whiskey, you know, having that whiskey conversation. Everything's going good. Well, this whiskey bar was on deck 8 in a very wide open place. It was round, as a matter of fact. It had a nice sitting area, but it just wasn't what you think of as kind of a whiskey bar feeling.
right inside the casino.
And what was on? No, that was a different bar. That was Penrose.
Okay, I'm thinking the other.
Please, Sharon.
Okay.
I know where the bar is. I mean, for crying out loud. So, and one other thing that was odd was usually the whiskey bar is adjacent to the cigar lounge, which we may or may not have indulged in one or two of those during the trip. But in this case, the whiskey bar was deck 8, more forward than anything else. And the cigar lounge is more like midship, and that was on deck 7, right next to what is the Metropolitan Bar. Now, maybe that's not that big of a deal, but the location was odd. And the Metropolitan Bar is a beautiful bar, tons of seating. That's where the Chocolate Cowboy is. They have a lot of great drinks.
It's a great place to hang out, like before dinner, for a dinner pre-dinner cocktail with friends.
But every time someone opens the door, you're getting hit with that cigar smell.
The whole time we sat there, you could smell the cigar smoke.
So a little bit of an odd location there. So that was a little bit odd. And then the only other issue I had with the bars was the atrium bar. Now, if you've been on a ship, you know there's usually a nice bar in the atrium area. And on other NCL ships, it's a great setup. The bar is there. There's a big open area. Usually they do some game shows and things in there. Well, they had something called the Penrose Bar, and it was in the Penrose atrium. But the Penrose Bar was also adjacent to the casino, and the bar had video poker games built into it. So I was like, well, is this the casino bar, or is this the atrium bar, or what's the deal? And the atrium got so filled up, but there wasn't any room for anyone in the atrium. So the bar was packed. You really had to throw an elbow to get in there. So it was a little bit rough around the edges. As a matter of fact,
the atrium was kind of just kind of a little undesirable. Like, you picture an atrium as kind of a focal point sometimes in the ship, something a little kind of fancy look or just something. And this one was very plain, and just I don't know. I wanted to say boring. There was nothing that stood out in this.
Well, on the bottom deck, on deck 6, they had a little band that played adjacent to the Penrose bar. But they were like tucked in a corner. They were under an overhang, so you couldn't see them from above, but you could hear them throughout the other 2 decks.
And a few people would be around the area with them, but it wouldn't accommodate very many people.
Well, here, let me show you a little picture. Let me see if I have a little shot here. Okay, so this was the atrium kind of looking down from a deck above.
So as we see where all the people are looking through the I guess the bars there.
Yes.
The band was inside there, and there were a few other people in there. Maybe a few were dancing and just sitting there. But most of the people were all on the outside there, looking through there to see the band. And it was very crowded. Most every night, it was a very crowded area.
Besides Sid Norman's Poorhouse, where they had some entertainment, and any of the main shows, this was the only place where they had bands playing. But you can see where people are sitting on the outside of like a wall of decor, trying to look in and bringing their chairs around. So I think they missed the boat on what would be a great atrium hangout area in the way that it was kind of put together.
There were so many people down there that they brought out a bunch of folding chairs.
Oh my gosh!
There were people all sitting on folding chairs out there.
I've never seen, and you're on the NCL Prima and they got folding chairs. We're like, okay, guys, come on, what's the deal here? It was a little bit crazy. So that's it. Now, if you're going to ask me what my favorite bar, of course, the whiskey bar. That's where we found the Buffalo Trace and maybe a new favorite, 1792, but we'll talk about that on another show. We may have done a whiskey taste test with a few people in the group, so that was awesome.
The Observation Lounge had a nice bar, too.
I don't even know. We missed the boat on the Observation Lounge.
Well, we were there the last night.
Yeah, the one time we went in there for something was a Latitudes event, and we just got in quick, found a seat, and it wasn't near the bar. Another time we went in there for something. Part of the place was had like a private function going on, which is a conversation for another day to not get me started on.
We went there the last night before dinner with our group to meet up for cocktails, and we hung out there for quite a while, and it's a really nice area. But I would say the Observation Lounge on the ship, I found it to be busier than any observation lounge I've been on a couple other ships that have an observation lounge.
Yeah.
So, very
For
busy.
Sure. And we got there, and the bar was great. The bartenders were great. They had a good selection of everything. That you enjoyed one of your red bubbles there,
yeah,
and it was just a great vibe. And it was very full, and I did feel a little bad because we decided to bring our group there for a farewell pre-dinner cocktail party, and we commandeered the bar, but we wanted to sit as a group more. Yeah. So we saw one table open up, so we grabbed that. Then another table opened up, so we grabbed that. And then we were just waiting patiently for three very nice older folks to kind of wrap up their chatting. And finally they got up and we swooped right in and then had a whole thing together for our 15 people. So that was super cool. All right, so that's a little bit about the bars. And but otherwise, just, I don't know, I've read some reviews where martinis were hard to come by. Like each bar seemed to have a specialty. But I had one person tell me that they went to a bar to ask for a martini and they were told, well, this isn't a martini bar. And I guess they were looking for maybe a selection. And we're like, come on, let's get back to traditional. Whiskey bar, martini bar, mojito bar, and then every other bar has all the different stuff you want. So what about entertainment, Sharon? Because that was a big focal point. That was really, really pushed before we got on the ship about how great it was.
Another thing on the ship, book your entertainment before, as soon as you can. It will fill up. There were so many people I heard complaining that they were not able to get into some of the shows because
you can only book it when you get on the ship, right?
Yeah,
the entertainment.
Yeah.
So the entertainment, as soon as you get on the ship, you either got to get to a kiosk that you find in a few places,
or the TV
near the elevator banks, or get to the TV in your room and book these things very quickly because they will fill. I think the theater, which is pretty awesome in itself, holds about 500, maybe a little more. There's one main lower level with seating, but then the upper levels just have some side seating, and there's a very small upper level.
7 and a small deck 8. Every time we went to the show, we sat on the side on deck 7. The first time, a little bit, I heard that was a great spot, but it was a little bit by accident because the first time we went to the show was the Donna Summer show.
Yes.
We got there, we weren't late, but we got there, after most of the people were there. So the bottom level was pretty full.
Hold on, I see a comment that says Kent is a legend. Yes, you're right, Mike Cray. You certainly are right.
So we went off deck 7 and we realized that, we really enjoyed that spot. So every other show, we just went right up to deck 7 on the side and got in. It was a great view. You kind of look down. So the Donna Summer show was the first show we saw. The talent was amazing. There were 3 different women there, and they all portrayed like a different age of Donna Summer's life. It was kind of like the story of her life. It did get a little slow at times, and then there were here and there some of the music kind of picked you up. So I thought it was good, but it wasn't the best show I've seen on NCL. But it was very good, and the talent was extremely
It went
talented.
from like a Broadway show, like bing bang boom, lights and everything, awesome, and again, this, like you said, the singing was some of the best that we had heard. But then all of a sudden, all that would disappear, and it would just be kind of a blank stage with like 2 or 3 people acting out a scene.
Kind of like
some of the rougher scenes from Donna Summer's existence. We don't want to ruin it for you, but it was a good show.
Not as many props, I guess.
Maybe
so it was
maybe a little bit slow, and
you had to imagine,
but a lot of talent.
You had to put a lot of imagination to it and kind of imagine those props were there.
All right, so
and then it's really cool how it makes into the nightclub and all that. So that's just a whole cool experience.
That's a very cool thing.
Yeah,
and all the seats on the lower level electronically pushed back to create a nightclub. There's a fixture at the top that comes down to make a whole light thing. And that's something that's neat. That'll happen after a couple of shows, like within an hour after a show ends. We originally thought it might lead into that, but it didn't really play out that way.
And then next we went to The Price is Right on the next night that we had a show.
Yes.
And that is a really fun game show. Someone from our group was called up. And
Hang on a second. Someone from our group was there. Let me see if we have this.
He was in the showcase showdown.
That's right, guys. It looked like The Price is Right. And if you look closely there, Matt from our group, Matt Bird, got called up for this. It was weird how they did it. It wasn't exactly per the show, but he got called up. But the weird thing was they called him up to the stage, and then the second name they called apparently was a 9 or 10-year-old kid, which is super cool. And the kid's dad went up there with him as well.
It was kind of funny because
Yes.
Matthew, when we went in, they have you fill out these name tags, so
Yes.
then they had I guess, to probably call you up.
Yeah.
Or
If you showed that you checked in, then you're going to be eligible.
But I told Matthew, I was like, "Oh, you won't be called up. You can't do that because you're a kid." And
yeah,
then
we're like,
I
they
didn't
won't
know.
call you up if you're
Yeah,
under
but I
18.
guess
They
you
would
can.
know.
Yeah.
Yes. And the funny thing was, and they called Matt, and our friend's name is Matt, and of course it was Matthew. And there was a moment where they go, Matthew! And it's like, wait, our Matthew? Oh, and then they called him, and
That
it
was
just
a lot of fun.
exciting.
But that is probably, I would say that's probably the most fun game show that I've ever been to on a cruise ship. I really enjoyed The Price is Right. It was a great time. And then they showed little clips here and there from the original Price is Right on TV, a little Bob Barker moments.
And the host
different
was funny,
things.
and I thought the guy was great.
Yeah.
Now, conversely, I know we might talk about this here in a minute, but I know I might be jumping around, and I'm trying not to. I swear to God,
let's go to the
I'm
next
trying to stick on.
show.
But the other show, Deal or No Deal.
Yeah.
Right. There's another show that's very popular on Norwegian, Deal or No Deal. Quite often it's done in the atrium, a big area, a big screen. It's a whole big thing. But in this case, they did it in a very small venue. We'll talk about them in a minute. But they did it in a venue called the Improv, which is usually for comedy. But it was very small. It was very, very tight. And just to give you an idea of the difference between the two there, you saw this one was The Price is Right. Huge stage, huge venue. But then the Improv, a tiny little room, and if you look in the back, that's where the Deal or No Deal screen was, and half of the time you sat in there, you had to look through posts and poles, and you couldn't see the screen. So it was kind of a weird dynamic there, because I would have liked to see that too.
Yeah, the comedy was in there as well, and you had to pre-book that. So not a lot of people got in for the comedy, I don't think, because it doesn't hold very many people. So next, we saw Noise Boys.
Yeah.
So we were excited to kind of see that because we knew that it was created by the same creators that created Choir of Man, which is our favorite NCL show. And it's totally different than Choir Man, and it's the people are very talented, very, very talented, but
their talent is unique.
And the show wasn't as long as most NCL shows. It was maybe
about 50 minutes.
Yeah. But it's a show where we probably could, I don't know, we were saying, maybe 15 minutes of that, and we were kind of done. We thought about leaving at one point.
So they call it Noise Boys because it's a team of people, and half of them or 3/4 of them are doing some awesome tap dancing.
Yeah.
I mean, it's really well choreographed, and it's awesome, and it's very new wave type of tap. It's not like your old Fred Astaire, doing a little toe tap deal. These guys were doing some crazy stuff, and it was very, very talented. And then there were 2 guys that were beatboxers, and they did some incredible beatboxing. And at first we're like, man, this is awesome. But if I'm being totally honest, which, we try to be, about 15 minutes worth of tap dancing and beatboxing is really everything that I have. They had one lady who was singing, and she was a nice singer and good, but compared to the Donna Summer gals, it was a little bit tough. So that show wasn't quite what we were hoping it would be, and luckily it was a little bit shorter than the Donna Summer, and we did all right.
If we had the option to go back to any of those shows and see them again, I might go back to the Donna Summers, but I think it was a great show, but I think probably once is all you really need to see of that. Price is Right, I would definitely go back multiple times. It was fun.
With the hopes of getting called up there.
Well, yeah.
Although the prizes were a little, I don't want to get too negative, but the prizes were a little weak.
But Noise Boys, definitely no. I would not go back to that show.
All right, so speaking of venues, now I mentioned one of them, the Improv, and that's the comedy place. And a lot of people said it was just really small. It was it looked like a classroom. There were just a bunch of chairs lined up. So it's not like a larger venue where you're sitting maybe a semicircle thing looking. There's a front row which holds about, I don't know, maybe 8 chairs across, maybe 8 or 10. Not the most comfortable chairs. They're just lined up in a row like 2 space, and the likes of that, and a few other chairs along the outside. But of course, they did have Sid Norman's Poorhouse, which is very, very cool. Yeah. Again, very small. So these are things where you had to get there early. We were over 30 minutes early for the Rumors tribute show, which we saw before. That's what we really want to see, and you can't,
pre-book that or make reservations. So you really have to just get there early to get even a seat in there, or even get it in there to stand, because it doesn't hold that many people. And that's a very popular show, the Rumor Show.
Yes, and it was amazing.
Great.
It was amazing. We got in early and had some seats, so that was awesome. Thank you very much for the hookup. You know who you are, and a number of our folks that we were hanging with got in there too. What was very cool is we were about 3 feet away from the stage. At one point, the lead gal, who was the Stevie Nicks role, she came down singing. She got up a little close to Matthew and kind of looked him in the eye. And you could tell Matthew was like,
hello
there. Yes, it was very, very cool and very fun. And that same band plays a number of other nights. They're the house band. But to think that they're so talented in what they do with that Fleetwood Mac tribute is just off the wall. Yeah. If there's anything I could go see tonight that I saw on the ship, it would be that show immediately.
Yeah. Again. That I can see that show over and over again.
Yes, totally. We had some notes again about the atrium area, but we talked about that already. I don't want to harp on it, but I think they just missed the boat, excuse the pun, a little bit on the atrium area. There's a lot of people that want to go on this ship and party and have fun. And they love that atrium feeling, that singing along with the band. They were singing, they were dancing, they were doing all that. But it was a very tight, situation, so that was a little bit rough. What about the outdoor venues? We don't have too much more to talk about, so we'll talk for another 15 minutes or so. Then we'll take some questions about the ship or whatever, in case, I know it's getting a little later in the evening on a Sunday. So
the outdoor venues, they have the stadium, which has the tea time, which was their mini golf area. Now, there is an extra fee for that. Our week, we went to play, and they said, it's complimentary this week. So we started to play, and then we realized why it was complimentary. It was not working.
It was not working.
Not working.
Kate Crowd, thank you for the super chat, by the way. Very, very nice. We appreciate that.
So, anyways, we played about half of the game, and then we're like, this is really no fun. So we left. That's one thing.
Let's talk about that one more second.
This is a game where it has all the electronics.
Tea time, the mini golf.
It has to be working for it to really be fun. Otherwise, it would be much more fun to just play regular mini golf versus this one.
Now, this is a big thing that they touted, and this is the first revenue sailing. And I know things aren't perfect on brand new cruises. I know that, and we're aware of that. But it was certainly a little bit disappointing when we get up there. We want to play it. We were ready to pay, and when the guy said, it's complimentary this week, like you said,
first we were like,
that's cool. I like that. Very nice. Then we started playing. We're like, no wonder it was complimentary. For example, hold on. I did grab a little screenshot here just to show you guys. I didn't have time to load tons and tons of pictures, but just a couple little things here. Let's see. Okay, so here's an example. This is the first hole. And if you look at the wheel there, okay, it's just blue. But there are some computer icons as if it's just a blue desktop screen on your computer at work. So everything here is run through computer software and programming. But that screen was blue because nothing was working on it. It should have had like a spinning wheel, and it should have done all this fun stuff. And that was kind of the gist with all of the holes, one way or the other, including the final hole that you're supposed to get to spin to see if there's some free stuff. Yeah. So it just was a little bit disappointing in that the guy says to us, he says, it worked last week, but all day today, now this was day 3 of the cruise. He said it hasn't worked all day today. We went by again, I think, on day 4.
I think one of them
it wasn't working.
One of them was working one day, but all of the holes, so to speak, weren't working.
Yes.
They also had, and the thing is, this was one of their new things. So I don't know. I would think that they would have it together for that. Being an inaugural type sailing, I get slow service, all that. We're fine with that. We understand that. But certain games and things that are kind of new that they really are promoting, and I don't get that are not working.
And unrelated to that, speaking of electronics, the Wi-Fi, everyone I think will tell you that it was not good at all. And again, we know that it's new, but they've already had a number of days at sea. They've had a lot of time to iron out a few kinks on that. And that's something that you some people had it included, some people paid extra for it. And so that's the bummer on that. You want to try to share pictures and things. Sharon spent a lot of time each evening just trying to upload 10 or 12 pictures at night, because you couldn't really do them on the fly during the day without taking a lot of time.
Do that much. And then they have the darts there, which was a cool thing too. It does hold a max of 6 people in the little dart rooms. They have, I think, 5 dart sort of rooms with a little sofa in there, the dartboard, everything that you can play. And I believe it was $40, I think, for the
$40
hour.
for an hour for having up to 6 people in there. It's all electronic. It keeps your score and everything.
That could be a fun time. Now, to be honest, I don't know if it was or was not working because we didn't play the darts. But I will say, every time we went up to the stadium, which was multiple times because we went up there for other things like ping pong and just other things we played here and there throughout the week.
Yeah, checking it out, walking through.
Every time I went in there, I never saw anyone playing on any of those 5 dart areas. So I don't know if it was not working or if it just wasn't an interest to people. Or
I think with the right crowd of people, that could be great. But I mean, come on, it's make it electronic and just have it included. I'm not a fan of the paying for it type of deal. And that was something that we knew that you have to be used to that, and you have to say, hey, is this something I'm ever going to do again? Is this something I don't want to mind spending a little extra money for? And will I really get my value out of it?
Would it be a cool experience with other people like that? But and the area was really nice. But I'm just saying I did not see people playing, so I don't know if it just was not working or if there was just the lack of interest.
And they had some other cool stuff there. They had a beer pong game. They had the little thing where you sit down at a table and then you kick the ball into the net that's part of the chair.
Ping pong and all those.
The round
those were
ping
a lot
pong.
of fun. We played those multiple times. Played all of those games.
Like a 3-person on each side foosball table. So that stuff was cool.
So we played all that, and but over the course of the week, I think. You can only play those so many times.
And getting back to kids and what kids can do, the tea time is something that'll cost money going forward. The darts is something that'll cost money if you want to use it, to do like let's say you got a couple of 15, 16-year-old kids and they say, hey, let's go play darts. Okay, well, is it okay if they drop $40? Because that's what they're going to have to do. Now, they do have service. You can get bar service, I guess. It was not too far from the Prima Speedway bar, so you can go back and forth. I'm sure if you book it, they'll have a bartender come and get you drinks and fill you up. I don't know if they'll be as attentive there at that particular location.
So I was a fan of that stadium area. I really liked it. I thought there was a lot of fun things there to do for families. But if everything's up and running, and there were more kids on board. There weren't that many kids on our sailing, but on a typical maybe summer cruise, if there were a lot of kids on there, that stadium will be like packed, and I don't know. Maybe it'll be more than hopping. I don't know how it could get crazy up there.
It'll get wild. Now, of course, then we get to the go-karts. Now, the go-karts, it's 3 levels instead of 2 on the other ships. And I'll tell you what, it was my first time on the go-kart because this time I was able to get in under the go-kart weight, which is 265, by the way. And they do have a scale that you get on. And although I may have gained a pound or 2, I didn't quite get back to that level. So I was very excited about that.
And I didn't, this time, Jamie and the kids rode the go-karts this time. I did not ride them because I've ridden them before on the other ships before. So I chose to stay back and film them riding them because Jamie hadn't ever rode them before and you really wanted to go. So I knew how much it meant to him. So I stayed back
and that's how we got quality footage like this, Sharon. You got Matthew pulling out on the go-kart. You started slow and then boom, you went out, and you weren't really racing because not everyone started at the same time. Although you could catch up to people or get behind or whatever, and you could get past, but it's more like you're just comparing your time. Look at me, look how excited I am. Still filling in that go-kart seat very handily, as a matter of fact.
So that was a lot of fun. And we're going to be back on the Prima in a couple weeks, so I'll ride them then. But I thought it was, I want to let Jamie
ride it. I'm going to whoop your butt on that. I'll tell you right now.
I don't think so.
I will tell you right now. All right, so that's a little bit.
You did come in last place. Matthew came in first.
I did have the slow slap, but I will say that I'm pretty sure I was at least on, even though I've lost weight, I was still 100 pounds more than anybody else. But it was very cool. They went faster than I thought. The track was bigger than I thought, and I really enjoyed it. Now, as far as
$15 per person.
Yes, there was another option to do, like where you might just have the track by yourself for a fastest lap thing, which costs more. Matthew said we didn't try that. Let's talk about slides. There are 3 slides, dry slides on the ship. On one side is the rush slide, and that goes down to the rush landing, which I believe is the port side of the ship, if I'm getting that right. And then on the other side, you had, what were they called? You had the drop on the one side. You had the drop slide and the rush slide.
Right.
The drop is a single. The rush are the 2 where you might have seen the tubes going down the whole side of the ship. It's almost intertwines with balconies and stuff like that. They are included. Everyone, I didn't go on it. We didn't go on it, but everyone I talked to said that it was a little slower than they wanted it to be.
Several people from our group went on it.
Yes, but the drop slide is the one where the floor drops out and you just go whoop, and that looks like a whole lot of fun. Of course, they had the water slide on there as well, so the wave water slide, so that looked pretty cool. And then one of the other outdoor venues was the Vibe Beach Club.
Yeah, and that I was surprised that wasn't more packed, but not that many people seemed to booked it on our sailing. It might have been partially our sailing. It was,
colder
not
weather.
Sure how the weather was.
It's definitely a warm weather venue.
Yeah, we had some great weather days most of the days, but it just wasn't as warm. And it was you can book that for the day for $99, or it's $209 currently if you book it for the whole week.
Yes.
That's another thing that it does sell out, so you can pre-book that before your cruise. You can actually pre-book that online once it becomes available.
Now, I'm not sure that if I'm not sure there's a better place for sail away, and things were very unique.
Yeah.
We were supposed to leave at 4:00. We didn't leave till about 6:30. Sail away was a little bit tricky. We'll talk about that more in the videos and such. They ended up really not doing anything for sail away. Apparently, there wasn't a sail away party. There wasn't an announcement. Many people said that they knew we were late for no reason, and then all of a sudden, boom, we were sailing away. Now, our group, we went up to the Prima Speedway bar and hung out all the way through sail away, and until then, because we were a great party group and had a blast.
And we had great views of the Statue of Liberty.
We did. Let me see if I think I have a view of that Vibe Beach Club in here somewhere. This was our view looking down from the Prima Speedway onto the Vibe Beach Club. Lots of great area in the app. The only thing that's farther back is the Haven. It's like on the opposite side of what you're seeing there, a little farther back on the ship. They had their own bar there. They had seating. They had loungers. They had all kinds of stuff. So that might be worth the $210 a person to go up there anytime for the full week. It might just be worth it on that particular ship, on that sailing. So that was very a cool looking thing, and I wouldn't mind doing that. Now, what about, let's talk about pools real quick as we get to the end of this deal.
Okay, so, well, one thing they did have on deck 17, they had a pool kind of midship. It was smaller than on other ships.
The main pool deck?
Yeah, the main pool deck. There was seating and loungers all around, but it was just smaller than other ships.
It was a pretty small area. They had the Waves bar right there, and that was popular, but it probably only had about 12, 15 spots.
Now, the pools were heated, which was nice. Now, Deck 8 had the infinity pools on both sides.
Yes.
And they had chairs and kind of loungers, and they did have those, I don't know if you've seen the pictures, they have like the kind of bed type loungers, and they have some on each side. Well, we checked every morning, and early in the morning, people would go and put their towels on them. I guess they might wear chair hogs, and then they would leave. And multiple times we'd walk by them during the day, and on one side, we never saw anyone on them, but there was stuff sitting on them.
Yeah.
So people would just...
There was a chair hog effect in there.
And I never even saw people laying on them, so I don't even know what they were using them for, except for the store their belongings. So that was kind of disappointing because a lot of people wanted to use those chairs.
Now, so far we've talked a little, listen, we're giving some positive. We're pointing out a few things that were not awesome, but we're trying to be fair and taking into consideration some of the different factors.
And
it's
an
inaugural ship and everything like that. But one of the things that I think was just really straight out underwhelming, and I don't know if there's any other way to put it, especially for you, was the shopping scenario.
Yeah, there were a few shops on board and some kind of common areas you walk through that were, I feel, was wasted space. Like they had, where you would walk down certain hallways and there were just like handbags and watches and like tech areas and things like that. And then they had them in the shops as well, and jewelry. So basically, if you wanted to buy a handbag, a watch, jewelry, or some tech items, you probably could buy it on that ship.
Yes.
If you were looking for any kind of logo, NCL Prima things, anything like that, forget it. There was one shop in the Pandora shop there that had a few, very few shirts, and they weren't even regular logo shirts. They said NCL on them, but they had like a weird little stripe thing here. I don't know. They were just some specific type of shirt. They had those. They had some of the metal water drinking bottles there, a few that said NCL Prima on them. And that was basically
Listen,
it.
if you didn't know,
Nothing.
if you did not know that it was the first revenue sailing from the United States, if you didn't know that going into it, nothing on the ship, unfortunately, told you that. There was no like, hey, here's an inaugural pin, here's an inaugural this, here's an inaugural season, this and that. There just wasn't anything there.
Even if you just wanted like a magnet or something, there nothing.
And we talked to a few people that are diehard NCL people, and they won't be fazed by a few misgivings on this ship, and they're going to keep on going and give it a shot. And maybe down the road they'll change things or they'll tweak it out. And that's what some of the cruise lines do if things don't go great. But even they were saying, yeah, NCL just seemed to really miss the boat, excuse the pun, on coming out of the gate strong when there was so much buildup for this new ship.
Yeah.
And then I felt like they were like, well, we had Katy Perry in England, so we can kind of shut it down from here and just kind of go and start sailing. Yeah. So that's one thing that we missed. But one thing that we really...
They did not have any ship models. I guess they did have a few on the very first... I think it was like a travel agency sailing or something when it first came out.
Yeah.
Over in Iceland.
They sold out of those like
but
that.
They said they got 500 of them, and they sold out the first day, sold out, and never got any more in. So.
Well, we'll see when they have more. So hopefully, I saw a question in the chat. We are going to be on the ship if all plan goes well here at the end of October
27.
for a couple days that we were invited. So that's very cool. But Sharon, let's end up on a high note with this because we've talked about a lot of good and a lot of bad here.
Okay.
And it may sound like there's more bad than good, but it's really easier to point out things that were the challenge. Just know that everything we encountered was great for the most part,
and I think
with some unique things that were a little bit of a curveball.
And I think, like we said, we kind of did this little review, and our thoughts are based on us traveling as a family. Whereas if you're just a couple getting on board and going, you may, some of these things may not bother you. It may not even be an issue. So, it could be a little different depending on your situation on this ship.
Yes, for sure. And as usual, and as we've experienced on other ships, the staff, the service itself was fantastic. Our cabin steward, Rudy, was awesome.
One of the best. He was spot on. As soon as we would leave the cabin and we would push the little thing to make up our room, we could be gone maybe 10 minutes and come back and, our room was either the bed was up or it was down.
Twice a day service. That was fantastic. He was all over it. Anything we needed, he was just great with. So that was just awesome. So we really enjoyed that. Even the people bringing the room service that we had a few times, that was fantastic. Nice. The bar folks, everyone in the dining rooms was awesome. So the people, everything was there. NCL continued to do a great job.
And the room service. Speaking of room service, we ordered room service twice, and it came fairly quickly. Everything was warm, hot, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
Everything was there, and it was great service. Now I will say NCL, it's $9.95 for room service. You can order anything you want. The food is actually included, but they charge you the $9.95 fee, like a service charge, and then they also charge you gratuity on top of that, 20%. So it comes out to $11.94 when it's all said and done. Mm-hmm. But you can order as much as you want. So I do like that option more so than paying per item. I think it was totally worth it. One morning we got up a little later and spending that $11 some or so to have all this food delivered for the four of us in the room and our coffee and everything. It was well worth it.
It definitely was. Holy cow. I'm looking at the chat is just flying by. I can't even keep track of it. I think I just opened the chat and I'm just catching up on everything right now. Yeah, so that might be why it's all flying through.
Okay. Well,
but the bottom line is this: will we be on it? Will we book it again? Well, we should be on it at the end of this month, and we're looking forward to that.
And we are on it again in 2024 on our Iceland group cruise.
That is right. We got a big group cruise coming in Iceland, so that will be fantastic.
I believe the Viva coming out is going to be just like this ship. I don't think there's going to be any changes to that now. Going forward, with a lot of people, throwing in their 2 cents, their reviews, maybe they'll make some changes on the ones going forward in this class of ships. Mm-hmm. We'll see. I mean, personally, I would either rather have a bigger ship to accommodate all these areas, or if you're going to keep this ship smaller, that's fine with me too. But just maybe take a few of those venues and things out of it and make the ones that you keep larger,
There you go.
and it would be fine too.
All right, so listen, if you have a question about it, just put something in the chat. Just put question, write question, and then hit us with your question, and we'll do the best that we can
answered that one
to answer
too,
that
Sharon.
one as well. I see a few comments there. Julie Amos had the same issue shopping for NCL logo stuff on the Joy.
Okay.
You know
So
what's
maybe-
weird?
maybe
We've
they're
been on
having a
Royal.
little bit of a-
We've been on Royal, and they got tons of stuff to promote the brand. We've been on Carnival, tons of stuff to promote the brand. NCL, it's just like, hey, we want to promote it. We wanted to be wearing NCL Prima shirts tonight, but they
Yeah.
just didn't have a whole lot.
So when we were on the Encore, they had a lot of Encore items. We got a lot on the Encore. We bought.
Yes. Yeah, Bearable Cruising, no inaugural ship model. We didn't get one, so hopefully
No.
when we get back on it again,
yeah.
they'll have some so we can get one for Matthew. Castle Gazer, you've been here making a few comments. I saw that. They said, we definitely sell her again, but we need 2 cabins for the family. Or you can spend the big bucks and get to the Haven and then get your 2-room
yeah. Maybe that's
deal
the way
and
to
all
go.
that kind of stuff. That is for sure. Wigwam Cheer, what's up? Said, I was looking forward to the ship. It looks great, but with what I have seen, not so sure.
Yeah.
Don't listen. We're pointing out some of the things that are supposed to be the big deals about the ship that are maybe just a little missing right now. That doesn't mean within a few months things aren't going to change
Like
and get
I
a little
said,
bit
if
better.
it's just 2 of you going, or it's awesome. There's plenty of room in the cabins and everything. We're basing this on as a family of 4.
Sure.
How
Aspen ATC's got a question. Not enough seating in the buffet. You said, was there an outdoor seating option for the buffet? There was the main area. There was a small little outdoor area adjacent to the pool with maybe about 12 to 15 tables, not a whole lot. And a few times when the Food Republic wasn't open, it was kind of on the
Right.
other side
It
of the
was like an
ship,
overflow
on the
for seating.
starboard side. They had people go there as an overflow. But that was really about it. There wasn't anywhere else to go. I mean, unless you took it back to your lounger, or unless you want to make the trek back to your cabin, which is always a little bit of a pain.
And there are a lot of outdoors there. Well, so I guess each the specialty dining, not all of them, but most of them have some outdoor seating as well.
Yeah.
And there is a lot of seating outside just overall for the ship, not necessarily to eat, but just to hang out. So it's definitely would be a great ship for more warm weather climate. So I don't know how it'll be when they sail, like
sure.
like the Iceland and things, because more people will be inside, I think, because of the
Yep. We'll see how that goes.
weather,
We'll see how
but-
that goes. So the big question, Big Gene Snuggles, what's up to the big question? What's your rating of the Prima out of 10? Could you give it a rating now? Do you need to relive it through videos and blog to get a full?
I think I want to go, when we go on it again at the end of the month, it's just going to be the 2 of us. And so I think when we go on, we'll get a little bit of a different feel with it just being the 2 of us.
Mm-hmm.
And then overall, I think we'll really have a better.
Well, I
feeling
think
of the
we'll
ship.
come back with a second round of a review with just 2 of us as a couple. 2 adults, or at least 1 adult and 1 half adult here, and we'll let you know what we thought.
Yeah.
And it could be a whole different vibe and a very different experience as far as what we do, where we go, and
As
stuff
far
like that.
as ratings, if I had to compare it to something on
Mm-hmm.
NCL, let me just say my favorite NCL ship right now would be the Encore.
For sure, definitely.
So I like the Encore. better than the
Rachel Biter had that same question. Joseph Mellon said, question, do you feel nickel and dimed and not enough entertainment and food that was free?
I don't think we felt so much nickel and dimes, but I don't feel like there was enough going on the ship between the
Yes.
entertainment and other things. I feel there was a lot of idle time around the ship where people maybe didn't have things to do during the day. Like it wasn't a lot during the day going on.
I would have liked to look.
At night, if you didn't have the show to go to, if you couldn't get into the show or the comedy, then there was basically just like the atrium band and things. There wasn't,
Yes, I found a lot of areas where I thought there was a little bit of dead space, where maybe they could have done something different with it and found a little more to do, a few more entertainment options. I would have liked to seen some violin players somewhere or something, or maybe a little so there was the one spot in that atrium, the Penrose atrium area, where they had like a 3-piece band that played, and people loved them. They were playing people were dancing. They were there late at night. It's like 1:30, 2 in the morning. People are still there, yucking it up. But it was such a condensed area that everyone took all the chairs in the whole atrium and just swung them all so that they could see the stage the best they could, especially through that kind of wall deal. And that was maybe a little bit of the challenge.
Let's go down in order here. There's a question. Are you going on the 27th for the travel agent deal or another family cruise? Oh, we already answered that. It's a travel agent. deal. So it'd just be the two of us.
Yes.
Let's see.
Deborah A. 1999. It's a question for an older solo traveler with which NCL ship would you recommend? Encore, Prima, or another?
The Prima would be okay, but I would go with Encore.
Yes.
I mean, the Encore is my favorite.
Now that you tried both, would you prefer the new Prima class or Excel class?
Oh, Carnival.
Carnival Excel class. You're talking about like the Mardi Gras type of deal.
I'm gonna. That's
Prima versus Mardi Gras.
I'm gonna go with the XL class.
Yeah, I think that's
because
that's not a tough question,
because
especially when you're talking about Carnival's newest ship.
As far as what they offer, they both have a lot. But I think it has to do with the size. I prefer ships a little bit more mid-size ships, versus the huge XL class size ships. I do prefer that. But the Prima just tried to cram too much on it. So I'm going to say the XL class on that one.
Yes, let's see what else. Tess Salmon, what's going on? Smaller venues probably for more space, for more cabins like Mardi Gras did, which I had no complaints about, but it was also 70% capacity.
And I will say I want to say the walls are, I don't know. We mentioned how there was a
thinner walls
from up above. We could hear, I've never heard this on another ship before, but we could hear the people in our cabin next door. We knew
when they were up.
Yeah, you couldn't make out what they're saying or anything or what was being said on the TV, but you could hear like mumbling of people talking or the TV. You could hear that noise.
Yes.
So
when I went on the balcony,
thinner wall.
On the balcony, I heard the noise from above. I didn't hear the cabins next door while they were in their cabin. But still, that's how it was.
One thing I've noticed, and I've never noticed that on any ship.
Bearable cruising, great question. Wondering how the accessible cabins are on the Prima and how it would be getting around on a mobility scooter. Plenty of people on scooters, so no issues there.
One thing, let's talk about, you know what? One thing they do have, we didn't mention, is there are a lot of bathrooms, public bathrooms on the ship, more than I've ever seen on any ship. Every time you come out of a venue, there's restrooms, and there's a separate accessible restroom too. That it's labeled accessible. So lots of accessible common areas, things like that.
Yeah.
So
there you go. Good night, Lindy Lou. Hope you have a great night. We'll talk to you again soon. There was a question that said, now that you're doing the show on Sunday, will Monday night be a football night? It will be. We won't be live tomorrow. But then next week we'll be back with the normal Monday Night Lives again, and we'll start to have videos coming out and such. Pam S.
Yeah. Oh, did you see the Haven area? If so, how was it? Yes, we did go in the Haven. The Haven was very nice. But one thing is they have their common areas. They have their like lounge and bar and their, all that area that before had cabins on that area. It's all on just deck 16 now. So it's just a little different setup. It is very nice though. And like we mentioned, there's a lot more Haven heavy on this ship.
There you go. Oh, Riding with Larry is breaking it down. My take, food, thumbs up, service, thumbs up, layout, thumbs down, extra charges, thumb down, balcony room, thumbs up, about a 6 out of 10.
Yeah.
Larry, that's a great way to put it. And we miss you already. And we hope you and Diane are having a great time, whatever you guys are doing right now in like Cape Cod or something like that.
Yeah.
Teslamont said, wow, that wall thing sucks. Only time I ever heard neighbors because there was a connecting room. I put a towel at the bottom of the door. Big Gene Snuggle said, so James, no funky monkey on the Prima. Was Jimmy out of action in the thin wall cabin? Well, I think I know what you mean by funky monkey, but we did have the kids there, so the funky monkey was kept in the luggage for the trip. But Jimmy came out once or twice, but otherwise I try to be on my best behavior.
Oh my gosh.
Like I said, once or twice, Jimmy's always going to come out. TLC Travels, thanks for your honest feedback. We're getting on the NCL since the pandemic in 14 days. On the Bliss from LA, you're going to have a great time.
You're going to love it. The Bliss is a great.
What's up, Eddie? Gina Bird, hello. Gina agrees with Larry. She was there too. Bill Leach said hello. Scott McNeil, what's up, dude? Great to see you. There's Charles Hahn. The thin walls, no problem. I won't see these people again. There you go.
Yeah.
Tesselmon said, funky monkey in the luggage, LOL. Oh my God, the funky monkey. Tesselmon said, dang, you did lose some weight. Well, thanks, Tess. You like what you see? Let's see. Do the kids like it? Okay, so good question, Sue.
Okay.
You want to answer it or do you want me to answer it?
Okay, I'll answer. So, there weren't a lot of kids on the ship.
That's an understatement. We barely saw any kids besides a few families with smaller kids.
And then we saw here and there a few teens. Now, I want to say Matthew said there were 50 some teens signed up in that ages 13 to 17, something like that. But there were only a couple of teens in the teen club at a time. Not too many went and used it, the teen club. Not much going on there. And Matthew will get into it a little better, how it's set up. But there is not really a true entourage, which is the teens, 13 to 17-year-old on this ship.
Yeah.
But he's going to do his own video and a breakdown of what he experienced and what he thinks of how the ship is for teens.
And Matthew's at that age. I'm sorry, he's at that age where he can get along on his own a little bit, right? He's okay going into some different circles and just checking things out.
And he went multiple times every night, even though things weren't really going on there. He's like, oh, I'm going to go and just see what's going on at the teen club. Maybe some people showed up. Maybe there's something going on.
And on the last night of all nights, he saw a few extra kids and actually hung out the latest of the whole week, probably.
But yeah, I know Callie, she didn't even want to go to the teen club.
She was a little bored. There wasn't much going on there.
But and Matthew checked, like we said, several times, but just
Yeah.
But
so
anyway.
so the kid, it was not the kid's best cruise, and honestly, I don't know. I mean, if your kids are pretty self-supportive and don't mind a little downtime and chill time, then maybe they'll have a good time. If they'll go and lay on the deck with you or hang out or relax, or they really love eating and experiencing some different flavors, then they might enjoy it.
If they like the kids club, if they're small, probably okay.
Yeah.
Teens,
I don't know if they're going to have a great reaction, if we're being totally honest. Did I get my favorite olives? Pam S. No. Great question. They still don't have the blue cheese stuffed olive. Even though 3 years ago I talked to the guy in the Encore, the food and beverage manager, and told him to step it up, but they still haven't. Kelly Ronaldo said, I can't wait to see Jimmy on the celebration. Oh, you will see Jimmy on the celebration for sure.
Before you know it.
Carla and Sue are agreeing. I don't know what you guys... Well, listen, you asked for it. You got it. Shane Nordgren, what's up? When you tip a particular crew member, do they get to keep it or do they share? Here's something very unique. On the first day, before we sailed away, we had someone in our group, and they were at a bar, and I don't want to give anyone away or anything like that, so I'm just going to say that. And they had a couple of drinks at the bar, and they wrote in a tip. And the bartender said to that person, listen, before we leave the port, the tips don't just go to us. I don't know exactly how to explain it perfectly, but this was what I got out of it. Something to the likes of, before they leave port and sail away, the tips are more of a general pool type of for the company. And maybe once you sail away, then your tip, maybe it goes more to that person or that area. Now, what we like to do, I prefer...
if you give them cash too, then they can usually keep it. Sometimes, when something gets written in, it's there for, whoever goes through all the...
Yeah, it may be taxed more, it's shared more between them, and there's nothing wrong with sharing, but you are spending money on gratuities and everything anyway, and by all means, tip anyone that took care of you, but we believe that cash is your best way to go, and, cash, give a tip with your first drink, give a tip with your last drink, and that'll make sure you have plenty of drinks in between. Write that down. That was one of the wisest things I've ever said on a live stream or anywhere else before.
Thank you, Shane, for the super chat.
Very nice, Shane. Thanks, dude. We really appreciate it. Rachel, what age is good to start cruising with kids? 1 year old.
Yeah.
Get them started early.
As soon as you can get them on the ship. Because then the more cruises you take, they kind of grow up just knowing, cruising. So, they get on, like Matthew grew up cruising. So... He was familiar with the kids clubs. He got on. He knew what to do, and it's so much easier that way.
That's right. Yeah, Leanne says, hers started as babies, and now they're 16 and 20. You are right, Leanne.
You don't have to worry then.
And if Nancy's still here, it's the same thing. I know she's got her kids into the cruising as well. Charles Hahn, you're right. Cash is king. Yes, Tess, probably tax. Greg Parks said, Sharon and Jamie both look great. Just got back from a 7-day on the NCL getaway. Had a great time.
Great.
Listen, all of our NCL cruises have been great. Okay, the Encore was great. The Breakaway did us right and took care of us. We look forward to being back on the Breakaway in January for the Vlogger Extravaganza.
With this review, we had a great time on the Prima. We had a wonderful group cruise with everyone. The ship is beautiful, and it's really no complaints. We're just, like we said, we wanted to pointing out
some of the controversial parts of the ship and some of the give and take and our experience from our family cruise. Robin Hudson, what's going on? Hope you guys are doing good. She said, keep the boys behind the bar happy, and they will keep you happy. You are right about that. You are totally right for sure. For sure. Let's see what else. I'm going on Norwegian 9 and Mark next year, and we'd love to get Norwegian done. Any Panero, yes, go enjoy Norwegian. It'll be a great time for you. Castle Gazer, thank you so much. Thanks for watching and stuff. We appreciate saying that. So good to hear your thoughts also. Really looking forward to the breakaway. It's time for NCL to redeem itself. Since my only other NCL cruise was not good, said Tesla Alman. Carla McClendon said kids can start sailing at 6 months old. Like Sharon and Jamie said, start young. My daughter turned 3 on her first cruise, and she just turned 24.
Yeah.
That is fantastic. That is awesome. So listen, so overall, we had a great time. We enjoyed the ship, and we look forward to getting back on it again and getting more of an experience. And that way, a month or a couple weeks from now, we can see, what might change based on that they're getting their groove on, their routine, they're doing a little better, and what might be a little different down the road.
At the end of the month, we'll see, our, like the tea time up and running by then, and just, kind of see how things are.
Yes. Timothy Walters, thank you for the super chat. He says, oh my God, busy all day, turn on YouTube, and who do I see but my 2 faves? You guys are great.
Thank you, Timothy.
Dude. Thank you. We appreciate that.
Cannot wait to see you again.
Yes. Yeah. Hey, that's okay. We know the real OG. We get it. There's other people doing a live stream right now. Well, they don't do it every time. So we're going to cut out of here in a few minutes. And if you're waiting to get over to there, you can certainly go see those guys too. No big deal there. Did the restaurant staff sing Washi Washi? We heard it a few times, but it was not predominant.
No.
It was not predominant. Now, I don't know if they backed off after the pandemic or what.
No,
and speaking of...
They did that way before the pandemic.
Yes. And I will say this, that it was great to see the staff without masks on. A lot of people are posting that on cruises just now, the masks are being optional.
There were here and there, we would see a random staff member with a mask, because it was an option. They could wear them, and just like the guests, randomly, there were a few guests that had masks as well, but for the most part, everyone was maskless, and most of the crew were maskless too.
Yeah, so that was fantastic.
Nice.
But if you still want to wear a mask, you can. Yeah. Many people wore it, so it's not an issue, and you can still do it and feel good and comfortable and not feel ostracized because you're still masking. It's totally your decision. Sugar said, my next cruise in 20 days, breakaway NCL 14 days. Cruise, then on to the Vlogger Extravaganza cruise. Can't wait. We can't wait too. Yeah. That is going to be so exciting. And information is finally out now. If you're going to be on the Vlogger cruise, shirts are available. Mm-hmm. Some of the plans are coming out. So that's very, very cool too. We're totally looking forward to doing that deal with some great people and having fun. The Z Show Cruise Fun. We did hear that our girl Kelly Clarkson will be on the Norwegian Prima in Galveston. Yeah. And I'm not going to lie.
We'll see if we get to meet her.
Yeah, I'm hoping to get invited up on stage to sing a rendition of Since You've Been Gone that will never be heard the same way after that. So we'll see what happens.
Oh my gosh. This is one thing we forgot. Arcade and Travel Adventures says, how was the arcade on NCL?
We mentioned it earlier, but quickly.
Yeah. Okay. That's one thing they did not have for kids on this ship. I think because they had all these other outdoor things and Galaxy Pavilion, there is no arcade on this ship. And I will say it was highly missed. By the kids, because our kids like to go in the arcade and play games in there.
But they did this, and they had the Galaxy Pavilion, so if you're into the VR kind of stuff,
but that's not like the other video games, and that's a lot more pricey than just playing.
I thought I might have had. Did I have a shot here? Oh yeah, there we are. We were at the Galaxy Pavilion. Yeah. There we are. Callie and I in the front seat. Sharon and Matthew in the back.
I will say some of the VR was really cool. It was great. That was probably, I think that was.
Yeah, you can pay for a full day. You can pay by the hour. You can pay by the game or the event or whatever you want to call it.
We did
and
the hour.
And there was definitely some cool stuff there. And we had a darn good time with it. So that's certainly, it's worth it. And although it was smaller than, the pavilion was smaller than on other ships, but they certainly packed a lot of things in there. And so that's a fun thing to do. And if you've never done it before, it can be a little mind-boggling. I will say one thing though. Watch out, because if you ate a big breakfast and then you go in the Galaxy Pavilion, some of these rides they move a lot and you're getting a visual that's really unique.
Yeah, even though it's not really
you can get turned upside down and it's very
make you nauseous.
It can make you a little bit of get you a little bit of a bellyache. It can certainly throw a curveball at you for sure. let's see. How we cruise? There you go. Thanks for all the Primo. Got to go prep for our live at 9. See you guys next week. Okay, how we
the
cruise?
casino. You played in the casino.
I played in the casino. The casino. We didn't really talk about it. I'll tell you what. The casino was really
quiet.
It was incredibly quiet,
noise-wise.
I found it to be pretty small. I found it to be quiet. They do have a main casino, which is non-smoking. So if you don't like smoking and you're against it, you will really love the casino. And if you're a smoker, I saw 1 or 2 people comment, and I didn't get into the smoking section of the casino, but it's very small. And people, the smokers, again, feeling a little bit like a second-class citizen. The non-smokers are loving it.
Yeah, if you're a non-smoker, they're
one craps table. There were 2 roulette tables. But all day, we found a lot of $10 games. Later on in the day, one side, you started seeing some bigger things. At one point, Leanne, I went up to the roulette table, and I put down $100. And then and they gave me my my chips, and they gave me 20 chips. And I was like, oh, and they go, yes, the chips are $5 each. It's $25 minimum. And I was like, whoa, I didn't realize that. I thought it might be a little cheaper, or at least I thought I could get dollar chips and then put down 25 total. So that was a little bit unique. So I played that out. I lost it for a little bit, and there you go. So so that's how it was. But otherwise, it was a pretty good deal, and I didn't win any money, but I didn't lose any money too.
Castle Gazer said we did the escape room. It was pretty good, but hard, and just a couple people. Take plenty of brains with you for those.
There you go.
Yeah, those can be kind of challenging.
All right, cool. All right, so I think that's everything. So now we're gonna get ready. We're gonna have a cabin tour coming out soon. We're gonna have some sort of a ship tour coming out. A ship tour. A ship show. A ship tour coming out. We've got some daily vlogs to put out. We've got our experience at the Indulge Food Hall to put out and show you all the great food we had there.
And we're trying to get them all out of the next 2 weeks before we get on the Prima again.
Yes,
because then we'll have more stuff.
Lori Cray said it was great to sit and play and not smell like an ashtray when you were done.
Yeah.
Or just walk through there and have a little smell on you.
Yeah, there was. I didn't smell any smoke.
Pia Broderick said, "Did they like the food?" Yeah, we did good. We did good with the food.
The food was great.
Yeah.
That was one of the best things.
There you go. Monterey unit, I'm glad you're here with the D&J cheer along. That's cool. We don't care. I mean, they can go over there and watch them. They're good folks, and they got a fun live stream. We just want to do it a little on Sunday night, and so we're good to go.
My boyfriend did well in the casino. Yes, Tyrone. Yeah, Tyrone in the
Yes,
casino.
he did. He did a good job. So listen, we'll let you go, and we'll let you get on out of here. We've been here for an hour and 40 minutes, but we just want to talk a little bit about the Prima, tell you a little bit about our experience. Overall, we had a really great time with the group, especially. It was fantastic. Thanks to all the folks that were able to go, and hopefully we see more of those folks and many more of you on future group cruises and on cruise ships. And we just had a blast. So
yeah, and we had this isn't the Prima, but we had a great day in Bermuda as well, and you'll see that in the vlogs. We'll have one of the vlogs will be our day in Bermuda.
Yes.
So we'll talk about that then.
Yes.
Either that or next week on our live show. We'll follow up with some of the, I guess, Bermuda.
There you go. That's the deal. So, Sharon, is that everything? Did we cover all the bases tonight?
I think we did.
We did. We tried to do the best we could here for you and break it down. So, videos coming soon. Thank you for joining us tonight. We had a great time talking about the Prima. We can't wait to get on her again and get a different vibe and a different experience and see how that goes a little bit later in the month. Yeah. Cruising out of Galveston.
We'll have a different room and different location and things like that. So
different people.
We'll see.
Yeah. And because you're going to find a different experience with all the New Yorkers.
Yeah.
Compared to all the Texans.
Yeah, that's
and
true.
So we're going to see what kind of vibe it is. Maybe do a special video. What's the difference between cruising with New Yorkers or cruising with the Texans? I can't do that. God. You know what I mean. You know where I'm going with that. So we'll see what we can do. But guys, otherwise that's it. Thanks for joining us on a Sunday. Remember, no live stream on Monday night. Sharon's got a lot of work to do, and I got a football game to watch. So we'll be back next Monday for the usual chat, and we appreciate it. And until next time, from all of us here at Sharonatsea Travel to all of you,
we will see you in another week. Happy cruising, and we'll see you on the gangway. And have a good week.
That's right, guys. We'll catch you later.
We'll get a lot of vlogs coming out this week.
Thanks for watching. We love you. We appreciate you.